just to show it again, the main benefit for this is if a visitor comes to the /author/username page and thinks, oh, let me take off the username to just see what's at the author level, it will then forward them to the all authors page, which contains a list of all the authors. Which is great, except that right now we have a blank page. It doesn't actually list all the authors. Now, to list all the authors, I'm going to take advantage of what's known in WordPress as a page template. Now, pages by default use a file called page.php. However, we want to create a custom page that will, instead of displaying the content from the page, it will display a list of all the authors. So just like we copied archive.php to create an author.php file that we could then modify, I'm going to take the code from page.php, copy it, and create a new file called authors.php. Now, to set up a page template, you've got to add to the top of the file a PHP comment, and this will tell WordPress that this particular PHP file is a template that can be used for pages. I'm going to go ahead and add this comment here and call this template, we'll call it the authors template. Now, if you look down, the page template looks very similar to the other pages. There's the header, the HTML, and then the loop. Just like on the single.php, the loop is only going to contain one post, but it's going to output HTML that's very similar. The main function that outputs the content inside the page template calls this function the content. Now, on this particular page, though, we don't want to show the content. We want to show instead a list of authors. I'm going to go ahead and write in here just a placeholder text that says list of authors, just to show you so we can set up the template and get it working before we actually add all the code to display the list of authors. So let me switch back over to WordPress and go to the all authors page. Now, when you add a new page template, you got to refresh the page before it'll show up in the drop-down. But once you do, you can see the drop-down over here, and you can pick authors. It shows up in the drop-down. Now, a lot of themes don't have any page templates. Cutline comes with one for archives and one for sitemap. If you don't have any page templates in your theme, this template box won't even appear. But once you add one, then it should appear and you should be able to pick the authors. Now, I reload the page, and instead of showing the blank content, it now shows the code from our page template. So all that remains is to actually substitute that placeholder text with the code that displays the list of authors. I've gone ahead and written that code out again, and I'll paste it in here. It's a little more complicated than what we've looked at before. It starts with a SQL query that asks the database for a list of authors. It then loops through each of those authors, and for each author, it retrieves that author's one latest post, and then it outputs the information. It retrieves the cur auth variable again, just like before. It outputs the user photo, the user's display name, their description, and then it has a little list there with the authors, with a link to the author's latest post and a link to the author's page that lists all of their posts. Once again, just for completeness, I'm going to add a little more CSS to the style.css file. This will style the horizontal rule separator I've put in between each of the authors on this page. Switch back over, and instead of our placeholder text list of authors, it will now actually display the full list of authors. You can see for each author it shows their photograph, their name, their description, a link to their latest post, and a link to view all their posts on their author page. Before I end, there's a couple of other plugins I'd like to mention. There's one called Simi User Extra Fields. This gives you the ability to add additional fields to your author profile so that you can track whether you want to show the birthdays or addresses or favorite colors or whatever. I'm actually building a site for a client right now using WordPress as their full membership directory. So you store emails and mailing addresses and all kinds of information. The other plugin I want to recommend is called Rich Text Biography. When I edited the biography, you saw it was just a text area, a simple box where you type in, and I was able to type in some HTML in there and have it display correctly. But Rich Text Biography actually turned that field into a WYSIWYG editor. so that you get the full range of options that you have for editing that you do in the WordPress content pages. Let me close with a reminder that all the files that I've edited during this presentation are available for download at my website at randyhoyt.com/WordPress. Click on the button labeled Presentation, Multiple Authors in WordPress. I've also got up there links to the plugins and the other sites I've mentioned, including JourneyToTheSea.com, my online myth magazine, and AmesburyWeb.com, my freelance web development portfolio.